hate the texture of your hair? Who taught you to hate the color of your skin to such extent that you bleach to get like the white man? Who taught you to hate the shape of your nose and the shape of your lips? Who taught you to hate yourself from the top of your head to the soles of your feet? Who taught you to hate your own kind? Who taught you to hate the race that you belong to? Don't let anybody make you think that God chose America as his divine messianic force to be a sort of policeman of the whole world. God has a way of standing before the nations with judgment, and it seems that I can hear God saying to America, you are too arrogant. If you don't change your ways, I will rise up and break the backbone of your power, and I'll place it in the hands of a nation that doesn't even know my name. Be still and know that I'm God.
Welcome to Street Talk. My name is Ahmad Shakaraki, and on Street Talk, what we do, we talk about things that happen here in Michigan, the U.S., and abroad, from political, social, and economics. Now, joining me tonight is two of my good friends.
Dennis Burnside.
Charles Thomas.
We got a lot to cover, but give us some of, and in the next month or two, we be Malcolm X Day.
Malcolm X Day over at Shabazz Academy. It's going to be the first event, hopefully the first annual, but a yearly event that we plan to showcase over at Shabazz Academy on the 24th of June. The time is going to be from 10 to 5, and we're inviting vendors out. We got speakers coming in to be announced, and we're just looking for a day of jubilee, a day of good times, good communication.
Now we're hoping, because this is actually the third Malcolm X Day, and we got some people in Lansing. I don't know. I hate to go back what Malcolm said in 1963, but I won't go there.
What do you say, man?
No, I'm not going.
They need to know, man. They need to know, man.
Well, he said Lansing was one of the most.
Don't do it.
One of the most trifling, laid back, do nothing people, and he said it in '63. So we'll just wait. We'll wait before we come do any more talking about that. But you.
Well, I was playing a lot of hooky in '63, so too much I can say about it. I was exactly a sterling citizen at the time myself.
Oh, okay. But anyway, we got the day coming up, and we hoping.
Yeah. Hope for good weather and good turnout.
Yeah, and we should have a turnout, but again, it just.
We're gonna have some free food and water. We're going to have vendors and some artists, and it should be enough to attract attention just from the sense of smell and sight. And once people get there, we hope we can educate them a little bit on the jewel that this town produced, Malcolm X.
Yeah,
Malcolm Shabazz.
And it's really, you should see signs all over the city about Malcolm X, but you don't see that, and one of the reasons is that we haven't pushed it as black people,
Right, and that's our downfall as a people. We don't support each other for whatever reason. It's just we're our own worst enemy. We're in our own way.
Yeah.
But we're obedient. We're our support is pronounced where it's supposed to be pronounced by the powers that be. Right now, the flavor of the decade, last couple decades, is Martin Luther King. As you and I have talked about many times, at the time that he was alive and when he died, his popularity was in the dustbin.
Yeah.
So now it's permitted, and you go any place you go. I was in Fort Wayne last week, crossed the Martin Luther King Bridge, or cities or schools, every town you go to, very little with the respect for Malcolm X. That doesn't reflect our apathy or ignorance. That reflects our lack of political power. The fact that we got Malcolm X Street named here, Malcolm X Drive renamed here, is because we went out there and we made it happen. We had the political wherewithal and the determination and the resolution to make it happen. But most of the time, what you see in any community that's a minority community, the expression of their own identity, man, is always going to be attenuated and limited to what the powers that be want to be marketed and seen. So it's not necessarily that we're so apathetic or we're just so ignorant. It's that it's not allowed. And we got to break through and make it happen.
Right.
Where are we now? Because when I look at, we look at all these other race of people, I hate to do any kind of comparison or anything like that. I hate that kind of a thing, but back when I was a young kid, we couldn't drink at the same fountain, all these things, but still we pushed forward. And it seemed to me that now we should stop pushing.
Yeah, I think we lost that purpose, that drive, and integration didn't help.
Okay.
And and then we don't support, the African American people that are in business, or we're not aware of the African American businessman that is out there trying to make it. So it's advertisement. It's politics.
Okay.
It's a lot of different things.
But we see more people, more blacks in the political realm now. In fact, Mississippi has more blacks in the political, realm.
Probably close to more than 50% black. So that's no surprise. And again, I push back a little bit against this notion we're not progressing. If you look at recent medical healthcare type demographics, the group that is in the worst health and has the highest morbidity rate and is falling and failing fast is the white male between 35 and 54. They're dying prematurely. They're hooked and addicted on alcohol and opioids. They have very poor job prospects. It's a reflection of the old American dream, which pretty much said if you can get out of bed in the morning, you can have a job that pays you a living wage. It went from being any old high school dropout to requiring a high school diploma by the time I graduated high school in the mid-'70s. But you could go into a Fisher Body, a GM, you could walk in there and get a job. My father-in-law told me he got mad at his boss and one day quit, went across the street, got a job with another GM plant, and had forgotten about the one he worked for a couple years until he retired. They added that onto his retirement package. That's how easy it was. It's not that easy anymore. But on the other hand, you see at the same time, you see white males falling in morbidity rates. You see black males increasing in morbidity rate. Our health is actually improving somewhat. Our job prospects as a whole are starting to improve. Our GDP, our economic profile is improving somewhat. The problem that we have is we still have this wide berth between the working middle and upper middle class blacks and the poor blacks, and that's where the pathologies lie. That's where the crime is. That's where the drug addiction. That's where the stereotypes that are put in the movies and thrown all overseas. That's where they're created, and those are the people that we've got to raise up, and that's only going to be done through our own internal mechanisms, hiring each other, educating each other, looking out for each other, as other races do.
Mr. Paget.
Yes, sir.
What's your thoughts into this?
Well, by and large, I could agree with Dennis there and Charles. Both of them made sense.
Okay.
But sometimes we have to be more willing and I said this before, and many times we find a lot of our people don't want to be educated. They think they know it, they know all they need to know, so you can't tell them anything else. But the story of the old beaver comes in here. These youngsters trying to build a dam, and it wasn't holding. Little old beaver sitting over there. And they just brush him aside. Oh, don't worry. Until I guess they figured now, well, we're really not making it, so we better ask. So they went to the old beaver, and he showed them just how to build that dam. And it held. So they were protected now. Our youngsters, and a lot of it is not their fault. Because when you think of their parents who were youngsters themselves, didn't get the kind of background they needed. So therefore they couldn't give what they didn't have. So back to education. We have to take time to educate. Yes, what you all are working on now is a method of educating the people. So then you have to get the people out. How are you going to do that? You have to advertise. I mean, I'm sure some of these radio stations could give some free ad for something like that. So maybe that's one source you could go. These two guys on every morning, have a good following. They might be willing to do that. Maybe you could see if the school district would do anything to get the word around. There are people who ought to be involved. The school districts should be involved in getting education to the people.
The right
whatever
education.
source it's coming from, as long as it is the right thing.
Mm-hmm. Dennis, you were saying?
I said pretty much all I can say on that topic.
And I think, too, it got to start at the family level,
Mm-hmm.
at the dinner table,
Mm-hmm.
you know, teaching the kids responsibility,
Mm-hmm.
stop the backbiting.
Mm-hmm.
There's an urgency, you know, that, I mean, with this last election, there's an urgency in our community for self-preservation,
Mm-hmm.
for a commitment to you. And our future is our children.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If we don't recognize and feed that potential future prospect,
Mm-hmm.
then we're going to continue to repeat the same old idiosyncrasies that are producing these, you know, kids without a hope. And we need hope, and we need a commitment. Go back to the village, yeah, the old African thing, you know.
Mhm.
And we need to get back to spirituality. You can will things if there's enough of us on the right page. You can will things into existence.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we've done that before, Caucasians or Italians or anybody else, when we were a people.
Yeah.
You know, you can't build a pyramid or sphinx and you're dysfunctional.
Right. Right.
So as African American people, we have something to look for. We look at our history, our past history,
Mhm.
and go and take that and plug into that
Mhm.
and feel good about yourself. Don't let nobody tell you that you ain't about nothing, that you don't, that you broke.
Mhm.
You're not broke.
Mhm.
You just need to be.
Succeeding generation is more conscious than the one that came before them. I think there's more information out here. Young people know a hell of a lot more about their history than I knew when I was coming around. And I think I knew more about my history than my parents and grandparents. It's just a matter of availability and availing yourself of it. And there are a lot of conscious young people out here nowadays who know their history, who know that the review of history that they get in the school is a lie, that they come from accomplished people, that they don't have to take a backseat to anyone on any intellectual level.
Mm-hmm.
But in my opinion, I don't think we need to go back and reinvent the wheel. Everything we talked about here, you know, having dinner as a family and stressing education and pulling for one another, that's all self-evident. We've known that forever. But I think the thing that we don't know about is just the true history of who we are. I think it's one reason why, and this is not the topic specifically that we're addressing here, but I think that knowledge is one reason why you see fewer and fewer young people going to a mosque or a synagogue or a church, because they know that's a story, but that's not history. And they know the history behind the story of how religion came to be. And it makes them seek a more spiritual, real connection with the Creator, rather than one that says, if you come and give me 10% every Sunday, you can do what you want to do the rest of the week. The academic knowledge and achievement that you see among our people is starting to ascend again after so many decades where it was flat and fallen. I think, again, that's because young people are starting to have the realization that, I've got one of the most beautiful minds that the Creator ever made, and there's no reason why I can't do this. But on the other hand, we're not going to see a turnaround like that. It's going to take, we've only had really 500 years of what you would call white supremacy, where civilization was codified into believing that the white man was superior, everyone else was following along, and that the white man's history was one of supreme accomplishment and innovation, and everyone else was running around with a bone in their nose. We know now it's actually almost the opposite. That it was a European who was the last phenotype to even develop, and it was he and she that was the last one to really step into the civilized way of living. But you got to be able to tell that story in a way that's cogent and rational and well fact found, so that when you're talking to your children or your nieces or your nephews, just young people, they understand that this is the truth, and they don't have to worry about hearing fairy tales about so David and Goliath or some madness like that. Just tell what actually happened, and I think we're getting there. I for one, don't think it's going to happen in our lifetime. Me and you talked about that. It's probably not going to happen in our grandchildren's lifetimes, but it's going to happen. And it's just a natural progression which comes with adhering to your culture, learning what about your culture and adhering to it.
Yeah. Would it be bad to say that they're still teaching in the African American church Jim Crowism?
Of course they are.
Yeah.
And do you think that they're conscious of that?
No.
Okay.
Well, if you've been trained to believe generation after generation after generation, essentially that don't worry about it, your pie's in the sky when you die. That's what it's coming down to. That's what Christianity teaches you. And if you've been taught that, nothing else, that becomes literally reality. I had a discussion this weekend with a woman, and she was saying, well, I just can't be an atheist. I just can't be an atheist. I said, wait a minute, who said anything about being an atheist? Because I don't believe in your religion, you conclude that I'm an atheist? See, that's how blind you are, not me. I know everything you know. I've read all those books. I've heard all the sermons. I've been there when they hooped and hollered, happy, got dance, heard all the choirs. I've heard all that. But you haven't read what I've read. You don't know what I know. So before you start drawing conclusions about what equals God, just rest assured there's plenty of people out here who believe in have a theological understanding, a spiritual understanding of a creator, but don't adhere to any religions. And I think, again, it's based on what you've been taught. If you've been taught that white man with the beard over there, looks like my weed dealer from college, is God, then that is your concept of who God is. And I think for a lot of reasons that helps explain some of the schism we see between black women and men. How could a black man sitting at home watching the football game after working 6 days, overtime all week, and now he's sitting home with a bowl of Cheetos and a 6-pack of beer, and his woman comes home from church, and she done seen a savior, and then she looks at this big gut dude sitting there, and you know,
controlling his
right? You ain't nothing.
Yeah.
No, baby, that's your man.
Right. Yeah.
That's who's supporting you and your children.
Right. Putting food on your table.
Thank you.
So, Patrick, what do you think? Where are we at now?
I think what Dennis said there early on was the material is there, the information is there. And as far as I see, the problem then is disseminating this information to the rest of the public. And that must be our focus, getting it out.
And we've talked about this. it's difficult for me to look at what's happening now, and I agree. Almost every week now we finding out some great black person that has been been not covered. It's like been hid away, or something like that.
Hidden figures.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No information about him, and then all of a sudden,
Bam.
yeah. So,
But that happens, not just in a micro example. You're looking at one person or one group who achieved, and you say, we ought to be like that. It's happening in the micro level, too. If you look at some of those same numbers that was talking about the falling morbidity of white males, and they're falling in terms of their educational achievement and their financial achievement, the group that's growing the fastest and achieving the most in terms of education, advanced education, job growth, income, etc., is black women.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Now, we don't talk about that.
No.
We ain't pointing out Shaquita and Linda and Marquetta and saying,
Right.
you doing your thing, girl.
Right.
It's all of them.
Yeah.
So we may not know about that individual black person until a movie like Hidden Figures comes out, but we also don't know about the growth within our own community because we're so busy rubbing our head talking about it's all bad. We ain't nothing.
Yeah.
It's not true.
Yeah.
We need to stop that. We need to stop talking about, we may not work with each other as much as we should. We may not support each other as much as we should. We may not educate ourselves as much as we should. But we are doing those things.
Yeah.
It's not as dire as people want to make it out to be.
Yeah. I went to a fundraiser. One of my friend's sons having a transplant, and his father donating his kidney.
Okay.
And they was at a church, and it was a beautiful program. And I just thought to myself, if all these churches would get together and pool their money, they wouldn't have to, they could kind of avoid some of the fundraisers.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, they siphon money through those churches.
Yeah.
Trillions of dollars.
Yeah.
And it doesn't come back to our community.
No.
And then the church got to go to the bank and borrow money, and they charge them interest on money that they're putting in the bank.
Yeah.
It's just common business sense to say, hey, look, churches, we got to work together.
Yeah.
We got a whole community here that will support us.
Yeah.
And we can support ourselves.
Yeah.
And so it boils down to economics, and a broke person, they ain't gonna listen to you down the city hall.
Oh no.
But if you got some money, and got some type of unity, then you got a voice down in the community.
That's it.
What if we organize our economic development around the black church? Forget, what we may personally believe about their theology. What if we said, this is where the Negroes are, let's go there. And we say, why don't we all create a black federal credit union that's organized around Christian churches?
Right.
And you deposit your weekly, I was going to say take.
Yeah.
Your weekly proceeds into the credit union, and from there we can loan each other for cars and houses, et cetera, et cetera.
Circulating.
Recirculate. That would be the rational starting point.
Right.
It seems to me, though, that the objective of these individual churches is to look out for each individual church's own self-interest instead of the communities at large.
Right.
Because Reverend Hoop and Holler don't want Reverend Cleo to get a little bit more money than he's
or
getting.
knows how much money he's taking in.
All the above.
Right.
And it's a lack of cohesion. It's a lack of
it ain't got nothing to do with God, but you're supposed to be loving one. And you can't stand behind a pulpit and not love your brother.
Yeah.
You can, but you ain't supposed
You
to.
ain't supposed to. Yeah.
Right.
Now-
So man, we could. That's a rich target right there.
Now, Paget, I see right here in Lansing, ministers over here don't like these ministers over here. And, we've got, I don't know how many churches.
Over 66.
Okay, well, more than 60. We got all these churches here in Lansing and got ministers who don't like other ministers. I mean, what is it?
Competition.
What is it?
Hey, have you ever heard of Satan?
Yeah.
And anything Satan does is opposite to what God does, right? God is all about love and unity. Satan is the opposite. And Satan does not want to see a unified people. Therefore, he's going to plant his seeds of discord throughout Christianity. And you take it from the Roman Catholic Church down to the whoever. And that's been going on. And by the way, it took a Roman Catholic to bring about the Reformation, Martin Luther. If we were following, all the rest of us were following in his train, we would have been far more advanced than we are today. We would have seen the light of unity far better than we are seeing it today. And then when selfishness comes in, as against corporate interests, you are going to have problems. Because, like you said there just now, Brother Hoop and Holler don't want Brother Cool over there know what he's doing or have more than him. And incidentally, I know of a situation where a minister was invited to this church to preach at a revival. This particular evening, the offering goes to the preacher.
Okay.
The local pastor was upset about the amounts was going to him, and they said, we can't be getting more than I'm getting. So you see, and it's a lot about money individually. And until and unless ministers, ministers in get to the point where they realize their mission is not so much about getting rich, but about enriching the people's mind.
Right.
But how they gonna do that?
Yeah, I was just going to ask.
Because the Catholic Church has never done it. When Martin Luther broke away and he created what do you call it?
Reformation.
Well, after the Reformation created the church that wasn't Catholic, it's called the
Lutheran Church.
Yeah, the Lutheran. How do you look at their history and show me where they did what you said they ought to do? Because they didn't do that I've seen. The churches always look out for the churches. The Pope has always looked out for the Catholic Church, and the Lutheran Luther pastors always took care of themselves. So I don't see that's a viable. I don't think that's a viable example for us.
Now the thing is, what I'm saying is that had we moved forward, a lot of times we hear something and we stop at that. We don't try to go beyond. Like somebody said to me, well, Reverend said so. Okay, but did you read it in the Bible for yourself? Well, Reverend said, we have to go to him because God will talk to him so that he could talk to us. But what he's telling you is not what God is saying. When he comes out here and says, God tells me to tell you, give me all your money. God didn't tell him that.
Who taught you to hate the texture of your hair? Who taught you to hate the color of your skin to such extent that you bleach to get like the white man? Who taught you to hate the shape of your nose and the shape of your lips? Who taught you to hate yourself from the top of your head to the soles of your feet? Who taught you to hate your own kind? Who taught you to hate the race that you belong to? Don't let anybody make you think that God chose America as his divine messianic force to be a sort of policeman of the whole world. God has a way of standing before the nations with judgment, and it seems that I can hear God saying to America, you are too arrogant. If you don't change your ways, I will rise up and break the backbone of your power, and I'll place it in the hands of a nation that doesn't even know my name. Be still and know that I'm God.